So one of the things, if you get to the point that you're ready to put together a proposal and you want to know what exactly does the data set look like, one thing you can ask for with Bethany, if it's not shown here on the list I'm about to show, is what's called the zero case file microdata. So these are files that have all of the structure of the data. A lot of these data sets, when you get into the microdata, there's more than one set. They're all linked together by different codes, or they're quite large. So the zero case files is a way for you as a researcher to put together a code, to practice with the data in a way that doesn't actually tell you anything about it other than the structure and how it's formatted. So they're SAS data sets. And the census does it. Pretty much everything is initially done with SAS, and then Jeremy will talk about the computing environment, but you can switch it from other programs, but it starts in SAS. The zero case files match the structure of the actual microdata, so that's valuable. You get the variable name, the type, the link, all that information. And like I said, you use these to work outside the lab because you can write your code, you can write a program. Right now, Amber's doing this for her ACS data. She's putting together the code outside the lab, and then you can give that code, a text file basically, to the administrator, and they can transfer it into the lab. I'm working on an NCHS project right now, and the researchers that I'm working with, they put all their code together, they put all their STATA program together, and then I basically ran it for them in the lab, and they came and looked at the output, and then changed the code, iteratively worked on it from there. So that's how it usually works. So just to give you an example, the American Housing Survey, it's a pretty big file. It has over 2,200 variables in the zero case file. Then there's 13 data sets that are all linked together to make that file work. So I'm just giving you this as an example of RDC data sets are not trivial data sets. I'm interested in food environments, and I always get ideas for different projects when I hear other people talk about what they've done. And one of the interesting things, so a minor thing that's in the American Housing Survey that I learned from looking at the microdata is that I could find out about how, if people have kitchens, if people have different access to, I might be able to put a grocery store in their neighborhood, but if most people don't have access to actually kitchen equipment in their low-income neighborhood, maybe that needs to be dealt with first. So looking at the zero case files, I was able to figure out that this might be a research question that I could ask. I wouldn't have been able to do that just using the public data because the public data doesn't usually get down to this kind of detail. Also, I'm interested in geography, and if anybody's for your projects, I'm the person that can help you out looking at what the GIS and spatial analysis, spatial statistical capabilities are within the RDC. So within the microdata, you can find out exactly, am I going to get the latitude and longitude of the establishment or the household? Am I going to get just the block ID? Am I going to get the block ID and the census tract? Or what the finest level of geography is? And in different surveys, you're not always going to get the latitude and longitude. It may just go down to the zip code level, as in the case with health survey data. It doesn't go all the way down to the latitude and longitude. These are some of the zero case files that we actually have available. So if you see one of these on this list and you want me to give you the zero case file, these are ones that we can give you today. If you don't see that what you're interested in on here, that's something to ask Bethany. When you start doing the proposal development, she can get you the zero case file for these. And as you can see, some of these are fairly large, like the annual survey of manufacturers has 198 files. They're zero case files, so they're small, but it's a lot of stuff for you to kind of sort through and figure out how it actually works. So these are some of the other ones, and give you an idea of what years there are. Anybody, if you see one of these that you're interested in, you can ask me about it. We do have the ILBD, the LBD zero case files, so those are good things to look at. We also have especially with the LBD and the LEHD, the zero case, I couldn't understand of how the data set was structured until I actually saw the zero case files and opened them up in SAS and figured out like what it meant. So it was very confusing until I looked at the zero case files and exactly what they were. Yes. The end of, is anybody interested in just the?
I'm interested in the attributes that are in these files. The ones that you showed look like they were all numerical yes, no, or there weren't any. I didn't see any attributes that were free format text.
Well, it depends. So one of the other things to look at is the actual, like if you're interested in this particular file, so yeah, these are based on the actual survey form.
Right.
So if you see what the actual form, what the question was on the actual form,
right,
then you would know what the format is in here.
Now those forms, are the survey forms available somewhere?
They're publicly available. They're available. We've got quite a few that we've collected, depending on what you're interested in. Bethany can help you find some more obscure ones. And I've heard of some people going through like the library and getting like some of the more historic ones. But a lot of it's publicly. The more common ones are publicly available.
So when you're getting into the nitty-gritty of writing a proposal, you looking at the way the variables are available can be decisive for the kind of models you could consider. For example, and if you look at a survey instrument and you can see there's an open-ended response, it may be possible to get that open-ended response.
Yeah. So it just depends on what they ask, how the question is coded. So I think most surveys on, with the actual microdata, you're not going to get, if someone wrote down their exact income or the income of their business, you're going to get that number. It'll be a continuous variable, not something broken down in categories that you would otherwise do.
When you say microdata, is that the individual surveys, or is that a condensed version of the individual surveys?
Typically they actually code the entire
coded individual form. So it might be for a person or a business.
So each record would be an individual or a business.
Yeah. And going back to like what Amber showed with when you look at the Census website, it tells you is it household unit, individual, establishment. And typically these are.
And where does this term microdata come from? What's micro about it?
It's not aggregated data. So data that you
term that says, okay, this is data. This is the smallest.
This is as small as you can go.
Data. There's no aggregation here at all.
Right. Yeah. So the data that you get publicly from the Census Bureau is aggregated to the county level or aggregated to the state level.
So whenever you hear the word microdata, it means that's the raw data.
Well, probably. I think it's it's a term we use. It's a term we use to describe the census. The restricted. I think that a better
Jeremy's
word
smiling.
A better word is the restricted access data.
I wouldn't say microdata is just raw data. You got microdata. It means that it is aggregated.
We have Jeremy have his slides. Let's switch to over. Jeremy has the computing environment.
Well, we don't have slides, it's fine. I'll just use it. So basically the key takeaway about the computing environment is you won't really have to become familiar with anything you're not that familiar with already for the most part. It is a Linux environment, but it's, there's a graphical user interface, you have a mouse, you have windows and things just like you're familiar with. And in terms of statistical software, pretty much all the major software packages that are used these days are in there. Stata, R, MATLAB, SAS, probably missing some Galaxy.
HLM.
Yeah, right, and as well as some other software, right, for things that are maybe not normally considered statistical packages. For instance, if it's your cup of tea, you can write your own Python code or C code or Fortran code, if anyone's still familiar with Fortran, and run your estimations, your models, those sorts of things as well. It's also possible, as has been mentioned earlier, to write code outside of the lab and then have it be put into the lab via the administrator. And Census does not like taking binary things in. So if you wrote some C code and compiled it, they wouldn't want the binary file in. But you could take your source code in and then compile it. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to.
So you
address
have
them.
all compilers?
You'd have to check.
Sorry,
Yeah, if you're looking for
visual, yeah.
yeah, they have a lot of compilers, and I think a lot of this stuff
For
is
Linux. For Linux.
right. Yeah, so it wouldn't be .NET, but most of the compiler languages I think can be compiled. And then they're open to, if you need a certain piece of software and they can vet it, they'll take that in, right? As long as there's not certain licensing issues or anything like that. And even in cases where there is a licensing issue or something like that, they're willing to work with you in that case too, if there's a perceived need and benefit.
Our website has a page that talks about the computing infrastructure, and more information can be found. So, for example, right now, if you looked at that page, it would tell you that there are a couple of products for doing spatial analysis, and they are in fact there. So, what are Geoda and
Geoda, well,
Grass and Geoda for doing GIS work, and they're negotiating to get ArcGIS or whatever the heck it's called these days and that may be available sometime in the near future. You wouldn't know that by looking at the website. You'd have to talk to us, and we could tell you that. You could build a project around it if that was crucial. If you wanted to run scripts, you'd be able to bring in the scripts.